Have you ever felt like you're just a number in the system? Have you felt like that? Hello. Hi. My name is Victor. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a book I've read. It's called The Undiscovered Self by Carl Jung. It's been published in 1957. It's the last book written by the psychologist and philosopher. And inside it I found some really deep and thought-provoking ideas, and I want to share one of these with you today. My first recommendation is that you read the book for yourself and see what you make of the things that are written here. In the first chapter, Carl Jung tackles the distinction between collective and individual. So for example, to lay this out and to explain what collective and individual means, when a doctor sees a patient, the doctor has some statistical knowledge. The patient comes because he has some complaints. The doctor has statistical knowledge which he gathered during his university years, where he studied medicine. If he's a specialist, then he has even more years, more knowledge, more collective knowledge, right? About how the human body works most times, right? And more than that, doctors go to conferences, they read articles, they read new books that appear in order to keep up with the trends and to keep their statistical knowledge and collective knowledge updated. So when the patient comes, they are using their most useful data out there, right? But that side is the collective kind of knowledge. The individual knowledge is what is specific to the patient. So for example, the doctor may ask you, where do you live? What sort of environment do you work in, right? Like if you have complaints of back pain and you lift huge things every day, kind of makes sense, right? But also the environment, habits, right? How far do you travel for work? What do you eat, diet, stuff like that? Do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you use drugs? What sort of other diseases or illnesses do you have that might be connected in one way or another to the symptom that this person experiences? All of that information is individual knowledge that the doctor also uses to make a good diagnosis. So even if the book was written around 70 years ago, today the reality is a lot of the problems and a lot of the approaches to problems and to solutions, they're only made through this statistical lens, especially in some businesses. So in medicine, I would say it depends on the sort of doctor and the sort of establishment that there is and the sort of environment, how the culture of medical examining works in a specific country. But in business or in more domains that have to do a lot with scientific data, for example, there's a lot of this going on. So when doing this, because we're dealing with massive numbers, the individuality of people disappears. At work or at school or in any environment, have you ever felt like you're just lost in the crowd? In web analytics, for example, people are called users or visitors, and they are treated like numbers, data points, right? They lose their individuality. You can see what someone did on a website through the data, but it doesn't make him or her or they human in any way. And the employees, analysts, or any other people that are whatever sort of title you have, the employees that are working with these numbers, when they're confronted with this transformation of people into numbers, they start also looking at themselves. Okay, so am I also a statistic when I click on websites? How do other people see me? Am I just a number? A statistic? This is a bigger problem than people realize, with consequences that are, especially on the psyche, that are difficult, if not near impossible to solve. This problem reaches across cultures, across whole societies. The loss of individuality and the sense of being dehumanized have cognitive and emotional consequences. People may regress to earlier consciousness states and feel like teenagers or like children, feeling childlike. And that comes, as you know, with a misunderstanding of what emotions are felt, or negative emotions like anger or sadness that are just overdriven, and you can guess that that's not a good thing. So what solution does Carl Jung propose? Well, the author puts emphasis on trying to balance these two approaches. So the idea of balance between collective and individual can be adapted to any field, actually. If you think about it, any problem, any industry, any sort of situation that you encounter, like, let's take quite a basic, simple problem. Trying to ask someone out for a date. The first approach would be the collective approach. So first you find out what sort of approach do people usually do. So what do? Do they find a nice restaurant, buy flowers, so that, what are the rules, the social rules about this? Oh, I can't, stay the whole night, right? How much time should I allocate for this sort of activity? What sort of activity can it be? What is proper and what is improper, right? So you find out the rules in order to give you a better odds of success, right? Now, the second approach is an individual. So you adapt, you find out about the individual, what sort of things do they like, and try to make the approach more personalized, more unique, more suited for them. So for example, if you'd approach only through the first method, right, only giving out, like for example, using a pickup line or something that is, that seems a little bit impersonal, seems wooden, right? It's just flat, it's shallow, it's not, the person doesn't feel the connection, right, with that sort of approach. While focusing on the second part can lead you a little bit far from the objective, and you might seem desperate and creepy. So for example, if you go with to pick this person up for a date, and you have flowers, for example, and you say, I brought you roses because I know that you love roses, and roses are your favorite flower, and also I know that red is your favorite color, so I brought you red roses, and also they're 7 because I've seen you 7 times before, and also your birthday's on the 7th, and I wrapped it in this in your favorite kind of magazine sort of pages because I know that you love. That's a little bit far. You're going too far. Something better would be, for example, if you find out that they're sporty, you just ask them out to a more active date, like sort of, let's play a tennis match together, or let's go to a rock climbing kind of establishment. Or if you find out that they're very artsy and they love to paint or to sing or to something like that, you might take them to a mug painting workshop, which they might find more interesting than going to a regular restaurant and having a meal. So balance in these two approaches. You also need the statistical kind of collective information, but you also need some individual approach as well. Balance them out. I think that is good. I agree with this principle. And it seems to have a use that is so vast. It can be used virtually for anything, from interpersonal relationships, right, to even to skills. Like, for example, when you're learning an instrument, for example, I play guitar, and if I want to learn a song, I hear a song, and I'm like, wow, this would be great. I want to learn this. I want to learn how to play this. I need first to know the basics. I need to know how to play guitar, what are strings, what sort of notes are there on the guitar, how do I approach this song in a more general fashion, and then I learn the specifics of the song. That would make it more successful, and it would make it easier in the future for me to also learn other songs rather than just the one. So I think you can also approach really complex problems, like reforming the education system or a medical system, right? You, as a group, right? Because no one person does this. As a group, you explore what sort of other systems are out there. How does it work in that country? How does it work in that country? What works for them? What works, right? What works there? What works there? What's the difference in culture? So you find out all this general knowledge and you piece it together to make kind of a general education system template, right? And then you go with individual approaches where you see, oh, okay, we've been doing this, but I think this might be better because it fits more with our culture. I think they also get better results from that, so we can also adapt our own approach in this way. So I think this is a very special principle that you can use for anything, like I said. And imbalances, whether it's on the general side or on the impersonal, on the individual side, you can definitely tell when the approach is not balanced. If you pay attention, you will definitely tell. You feel it, especially in interpersonal kind of exchanges. You feel it. So from my own life, let me give you an example. A while back, I had an interview. First, there was a test, which is basically a way to evaluate how much collective knowledge you have, right? After the test, which, I assumed I got it, I passed because I was called for a face-to-face interview. So I knew that one of the specific company values was honesty. In one of the tests I took, there was an English evaluation. As you can tell, English is not my first language, but I'm pretty good at it. And in the test, there was an error. And one of the questions was wrongly formulated. There was, I think, more of a translation error. It felt like it was translated through Google Translate, if you know what I mean. It didn't quite sound right in English. So I brought it up during the interview. I said, I also found a mistake in the interview process. There's a phrase in English there that doesn't quite make sense, and it wasn't a huge mistake, right? Like, it impacted the whole process, but it was a point of improvement for the whole interview process, basically. So, what do you think? Did I get the job? I did well on the test, right? I proved that I had the collective knowledge. And I also pointed out something that showed me valuing one of the core principles of the company, which was honesty. So I did collective stuff. I also did the individual kind of data sort of approach. What do you think of this idea? Think back. Are there any problems where you use this kind of balanced approach and it worked very well, even better than expected maybe? or any times where you approach the situation from a collective standpoint or from a individual standpoint, and it actually worked, or maybe it didn't work. How did it turn out? I would love to hear from you down in the comments. Also, this is one of the many thought-provoking ideas that are in this book. If you found this video interesting, give it a thumbs up. Click that button down below, thumbs up. And I also think subscribing might be a good idea for you. You know why? Because in the future, I'll be making more videos about more ideas from this book. They're in the works, and there's plenty of here to work with. Thanks a lot for spending some time here. See you all soon. All the best.